Baby Keem. He's a rapper, a producer, Kendrick's cousin, and an ex-Minecraft YouTuber. One of the early Minecraft YouTubers who wasn't weird. I first heard about this guy in 2019 or 2020 when I heard the song Honest on someone's Instagram story. That song hooked me so much that I had to listen to the rest of the mixtape, which was called Die For My Bitch. There were a couple of highlights from it that I still enjoy to this day, such as Apologize and Stats. The latter still has one of the hardest beat switches in his entire catalogue, and in the time between this tape dropped and his debut album The Melodic Blue was released, his career really skyrocketed to new heights, with a decent number of viral bangers on that album, as well as some songs from Die For My Bitch gaining more attention and going viral as a result. Baby Keem became one of the most exciting artists in the modern trap landscape. He also self-produces, which sets him apart from much of his competition. The Melodic Blue showed massive improvements on the production side of things, and I do think the best songs on it are some of his best ever. It also showed that he already possessed a strong sense of versatility. However, it was a bit bloated and arguably more inconsistent than his previous tape. Still, I could see a lot of untapped potential in it, enough to believe that Keem was capable of fully realizing his vision and delivering a truly amazing album. So about 4.5 years later, his second studio album Casino dropped. The question is, does it live up to that potential? Baby Keem has already proven himself to be a vocal chameleon on the Melodic Blue, but on Casino, he seems to display an even wider range of voices and vocal inflections despite the album's shorter runtime, and this is partially due to the fact that Baby Keem is being more personal on the record, so there are fresh voices he brings to the table that are more closely linked to his serious speaking voice. For example, on I Am Not A Lyricist, Keem's voice recalls early Outcast era Andre 3000, yet the tone carries the same quietly painful, soft-spoken restraint Andre used on Life of the Party. Then I hear an Aquemini era Andre through the final verse, and I even hear a bit of Kendrick in his performance as well. I'll get into all of this later. I appreciate this direction Keem is taking. By opening up and telling his own story, the album feels more intimate and powerful. The documentaries released during the rollout hinted at this shift, suggesting a deeper and more emotionally personal project, especially as they explored his childhood, family dynamics, and personal struggles. There was even an interview with Kendrick in which he discussed what Keem was like growing up, as well as a series of old videos filmed during Keem's early childhood. Keem has gotten personal before. One of my favorite songs of his, Trademark USA, has a monotone intro where he gets vulnerable and reveals his inner struggles, and it's lyrically very well written for a Baby Keem track. When I first heard the Melodic Blue, I was hoping his feature music would further explore this side of Baby Keem, because it can lead to more powerfully touching moments like those on Trademark USA. We do get more of that on this album, but not without some fiery bangers mixed in as well, like Circus Circus Freestyle and the title track. But going back to Trademark USA, just like how it began the Melodic Blue on a personal, depressing note, this album takes that route too, with the opening song No Security being a drumless cut that has Keem rapping over a sorrowful piano beat with a deeply pitched vocal sample. He pours out his hurt emotions and pain through his lyrics and voice as he speaks about the passing of his uncle, his mother having to sleep in a tent at one point, and reminiscing about when his life was at its darkest. The album ends on a seriously depressing and serious note with No Blame, which features a sample of possibly my favorite James Blake song, Never Learn To Share. The sample is incorporated very thoughtfully and creatively, repeatedly echoing the line, "But I don't blame," which goes hand in hand with the lyrics and message. Keem shifts into a vulnerable storytelling style here, as his verse reads like a letter to his mother, written with empathy and an understanding the struggles she faced while he was just a child, recalling deeply traumatic memories. The lyrics are filled with pain and grief, and it's arguably the most personal and revealing song he has made yet. So the album begins with more of a focus on Keem's own personal struggles that he's gone through, and ends with a focus on his mother's personal struggles. The album gets so personal at points that it almost feels like I'm listening to a self-titled album, but many of the songs that are in between these two heavy on the heart opening and closing tracks go over a variety of different moods and sounds. Dramatic Girl has has to feature the happiest and most cheerful beat that Keem has ever hopped on. The sample of Kids by MGMT really helps this vibe. This instrumental might somehow even sound more positive and energetic than the original. It's a feel-good song, but the trade-off for expressing these immensely summery vibes is a lack of standout lyrics or verses. While the tune itself is catchy, Dramatic Girl overall leans more towards sounding like a yacht vacation commercial than an actual summer jam with replay value. It's way too poppy for my taste. It's also an odd moment in the tracklist, as there isn't another song on here that takes as feel good as an approach as this one. It also strangely comes right before the album closer, so within a span of 2 tracks you get one of the happiest Baby Keem songs ever right before one of his most devastating. The juxtaposition of moods also applies interestingly to the first 2 songs on the album. The second track, which is the title track, comes right after the already mentioned No Security and is another addition to his collection of trap rap bangers, complete with a killer beat switch. The first instrumental is explosive and buzzing, but then the second beat features pitched la 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 vocals that feel playful yet simultaneously eerie. It's almost like a Happy Tree Friends type beat. However, despite its aggressive energy, the song continues the album's somber tone lyrically, as Keem mentions how he handled his grief when his grandma died, among other things. It's essentially a depressing song delivered in a hard-hitting, energetic fashion. Vocally, Keem sounds hyped up yet hurt at the same time. The following 2 songs take a more chill, melodic approach and feature Keem singing. These would be Birds and the Bees and Good Flirts with Kendrick. Good Flirts is particularly interesting as the 2 famous cousins really haven't made a song together that's this laid back, relaxed and almost sensual before. It's certainly a different change of pace from the in-your-face, super lively bangers they made together on the Melodic Blue. While I wouldn't say this track is better than those, I still think it's one of the best songs Baby Keem has made in this lane. Kendrick also matches the vibe of the song really smoothly and threw in some funny lines like that Young Thug one. The common reference is a nice touch as well. However, the goofy, over-the-top energy this duo usually brings returns a bit on House Money. A snippet of it was teased leading up to the release of this record, and now that the full song is here, I'm glad it lived up to my high expectations. It's packed with constantly enjoyable flow switch-ups throughout. At times, it feels like there are multiple features on the track with all the different voices they bring to it. You can tell Keem is influenced by many of the vocal styles Kendrick has used throughout his career, so hearing him showcase those influences alongside Kendrick himself makes for a really entertaining listen. Denzel Curry surprisingly handles the ad-libs on his track, which is a cool touch, but it also feels like a missed opportunity. If Keem was able to bring Denzel in for ad-libs on a song alongside Kendrick, he could have easily given him a full verse. It would have been far more exciting to hear Kendrick, Keem and Denzel going back and forth on this one. As it stands, this is probably the closest we'll ever get to a proper Denzel and Kendrick collaboration. I've already mentioned how Keem sounds a lot like Andre 3000 on I Am Not A Lyricist. I'm sure many other people noticed that familiarity too, but the song also gives off some Section 80 vibes, not only through his voice and flow, but also through the dark, somewhat melancholic beat. He sounds like a mix between 2011 Kendrick and Andre 3000. What I find engaging about this track is that the song is already great in its first 2 minutes, as Keem carries on the lyrical themes of his own personal traumas and struggles growing up, but then the song shifts from this conscious hip-hop experience to a melodic R&B one with Citizen Cope's smooth refrain and the chill bridge that Keem delivers after. It's the cherry on top. Sex Appeal I see as stylistically similar to Birds and the Bees from a couple of tracks earlier. Both are melodic, romantic cuts that feature Keem singing over cute beats. I wouldn't call these songs bad, but I feel like Keem phones it in lyrically on both tracks, as if the dancey vibes are already enough. Keem's pen game shines much brighter when he leans into this melodic style on Highway 95 Part 2. He blends singing and rapping to convey a deep sense of ache, as the trauma and negative influences placed on him during his upbringing make him question whether he can truly be a positive role model for his nieces. However, I don't find the song engaging sonically. It could have really used a fresh guest verse, or at least more flow switch-ups. He pretty much uses the same flow for the entire 3 minutes. The underwhelming flows on this track stick out like a sore thumb even more, as Circus Circus Freestyle comes straight after it and arguably has the most versatile range of flows out of all the tracks. You also get 3 beats for the price of 1. The first one builds up intensely to the super triumphant and victorious second one, which is fitting as Keem is essentially flexing his wealth and success. Then the third one slows things down, being more unserious and fun than the rest. The multiple phases that constantly change in engaging ways while maintaining the fun energy all the way through make the song really live up to the title. And yeah, that's basically the whole album. A part of me really does miss the fact that we don't get as many of those multi-phased bangers that made up the greatest cuts on the Melodic Blue. Don't go into this album expecting some Range Brothers, Family Ties, and Trademark USAs. The title track and Circus Circus Freestyle are basically the closest things we get to that. So I do admit that I don't find the highlights on here as incredible as the highs on his debut album. However, there isn't a song here that is as frustratingly boring as Direct Activity or some of the other low points on the Melodic Blue. Thankfully, we also don't get a chorus that is as unlistenable as the one on Pink Panties, so Casino is the more consistently enjoyable album. I can see something truly amazing in the vision Keem was going for here, as this album is of course more focused on his own personal life and himself. This is easily his most revealing project yet, and those revealing moments truly do make up some of the best moments on this record, as well as the most emotionally powerful moments in his catalogue so far. But the fact that Keem wanted to bring more versatility into the mix with the more melodic cuts and hard-hitting bangers did make the listening experience less cohesive and smooth than I would like it to be, and the melodic cuts also result in more misses than hits. I wouldn't call this album a step down from the Melodic Blue, but I wouldn't say this was the improvement I was hoping to see from Baby Keem. I'm in a similar place as I was when the Melodic Blue came out, where there is still some room to improve that I really hope he fulfills on his next album. So is this album good? Yeah, but nothing great or amazing. Is it at least better than the Melodic Blue? I would say it's on the same level, but for very different reasons. I feel like on the Melodic Blue, Keem was really trying to flex his production skills and versatility, while on here, it's like Keem is trying to pour his pain into his writing and give the audience a better insight into who he is and his story. Please like and subscribe.